tend to confuse brand and branding for marketing. Although they both have a lot of similarities, they're quite different. Marketing is more about the process, while branding is more about the perception, or as we like to think about it, the heart versus the brain. Unfortunately, many micro and small businesses, or many businesses in general, make the mistake of overlooking branding efforts because they think of themselves as a business and not as a brand. So, why should branding be important to micro and small businesses? It is a pleasure to welcome Ms. Vannette Tolbert, a marketing and branding strategist who works with businesses and entrepreneurs to grow their personal and professional brands. She began her career in Washington, D.C., where she gained experience directly supporting high-level executives across industries, both in the public and the private sectors. Vannette now lives in her home country of Liberia since 2016, where she started her own company to empower small businesses and position them for economic growth. So welcome, Vannette, and thanks so much for agreeing to this interview and providing our MSME some very valuable information. How are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Are you staying safe? I see we're saying that the world has sort of reopened, but for most of us, we're still saying,
Yeah, I'm still very much socially distancing. I come to my office and that's about it.
We will utilize the Zoom and the Hangouts and everything else in between. So, the get started, Vannette, please tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and of course, the company that you started since moving to Liberia.
Okay. Well, I have worked in so many different industries in Washington, D.C. when I was younger. Right out of college, I was working for a temp agency, and they would send me to all these different companies. So I would learn a little bit about each of the companies. And what I realized was that I didn't really want to do one thing. I wanted to do the type of work in which I could actually make a difference and learn about different types of businesses and help businesses to grow. So I started working in business development. I worked with some ad agencies in DC and in New York, and I discovered that this was actually my passion, helping businesses to identify their brands, to not only come up with a logo and colors, but to really come up with a brand that expresses who they are and what they want their customers or potential customers to feel about their brand and what they wanted their brand promise to really be. And so that is something that is just fun for me. I love to do it. I don't think of it as work. And so that's why I'm still doing it. And then the marketing aspect of it, I just love to do creative work. Nice. So it gives me the chance to create in a way that's meaningful and that can help small business owners. And that makes me happy. It's very fulfilling for me, especially now that I'm doing it here in Liberia.
Yeah.
I found that, we have a lot, most of the business owners here are small business owners. Is that accurate? Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah.
And many of them didn't go to school for marketing. Most of them didn't go to school for business or anything. They're just making their market and doing what they have to do to survive, to sell whatever it is that they have. And so they don't understand the concept of branding or consistency in branding and packaging and value addition. And so for me, it's just been very fulfilling over the last few years, especially working with a lot of agro-processors. But it's been very fulfilling to teach people what that means and to watch them evolve as a brand and to watch them take feedback from their customers and to integrate that into the message that they put out. So that was a long answer, but I just love doing it.
No, that's good. No, that's good. But and one of the things, you're absolutely right. In Liberia, we have a lot more micro and small businesses here. And a lot of those micro and small businesses, like you said, they didn't go to school for this specific industry or to do what they're doing, but it's more out of passion. It's more out of survival. So a lot of the things that people like you do is extremely helpful to them. Now, one of my biggest pet peeve, and I know most people don't know, is when I see people getting like marketing, advertising, PR, and branding confused. Yeah, it's like, oh no, it's the same thing. I'm like, no, it's not the same thing. So we're going to have a lot of micro and small businesses watching this. What is a quick way to educate them on what branding truly is?
Okay. So the quickest way, I would say that branding is when you as a company or a person identify who you are and what your promise to your customers is going to be. It's telling them how they should feel about you.
Yeah.
So when you think about an insurance company, for example, you would think, okay, they're trustworthy. We can trust them. It's a responsible company. Most insurance companies have the same colors, blue, gray, colors that look responsible. You think about other companies like Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Look at how strong their brand is. When you think about the brand that Coca-Cola has, you can almost taste it. You can remember what it feels like the last time you opened a nice, cold, crisp can of Coca-Cola. You remember the commercials. You remember the billboards that you've seen everywhere. That color of red, that red and white, that's branding. And that's not the product, but that's the brand. Okay, so now marketing is actually how you will get the word out about your products to the masses, to your target audience, the people you want to sell your products or your services to. So branding would include your website, your social media, print advertisements in the newspaper, billboards, things like that. That would be more of the marketing, the process of teaching people about your brand and making a personal connection between them and your brand so that they'll spend more money with you than anyone else. So I think that's...
No, you pretty much you broke it down for them. I think anybody watching this should be able to understand, that branding is all about the feel, the perception. A lot of people in the marketing and PR field they always say it's the heart versus the brain. So branding is more about the heart. And then of course marketing is more about the brain, like you said, the process, how you get people to really say, yeah, I trust this product. I have loyalty to this product. Yeah, I want to buy this product. Now, as we've seen in Liberia specifically, and I would say mostly in West Africa in the ECOWAS region, most micro and small companies, they're doing so much. And I think a lot of them don't understand the importance of doing it. There's some who understand, just feel like, you know what, I just can't do it because I'm doing so much. It's not important. I will make sure I prioritize other things. What would you have to say to them for them to understand why branding is so important for businesses in general?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. The thing that I would say is consistency is so very important. Even if you don't have money to pay to have, an extravagant logo designed, pick some colors that you like, come up with a name for your products, and start there. Let your packaging reflect those. You don't have to have your packaging made in some fancy factory, but if you just want to have a sticker printed and all of your stickers on your packages look the same, when people go to the store, if they buy your product and they have a good experience with your product, if they enjoy the way that your plantain chips tasted, they're going to go back to the store and they're going to look for your product. If your product looks different from one day to the next, they're going to get confused and just pick up anything, or maybe not buy any plantain chips that day at all. So you want to make sure that it's something that they can visually identify with ease, that it doesn't confuse them. So you want to keep your packaging consistent. And that's one of the biggest problems that I've seen here, is that people change their packaging from one week to the next. And there are a lot of reasons why. I'm not judging. Sometimes it's the availability of the packaging products. Sometimes they can't get their hands on stickers, or they have to use Ziploc bags today because there are no craft bags. So we completely understand, but it's your duty as the person behind the brand and the business owner to make sure that customers can find your product easily by coming up with a consistent look and feel for all of your packaging across the board.
Okay. Now, for those companies that already feel like they created some kind of brand and it may not be working for them and they want to reinvent themselves, what would be your advice for them? Because I see a lot of them who really need to to reinvent themselves, especially during this time. But
Yeah.
we have a lot of time right now. So, but what would your advice be for them?
I would say that you want to dig deep within yourself and figure out what your values are, what your mission is, long term and short term. So if today you're selling plantain chips, but in 5 years you want to have your own plantain chip making factory, think of that when you're thinking about your brand. Don't think about it from where you are today. Think about it from where you want to go, and then let that guide you in how you come up with your brand identity. Another important thing is going past knowing yourself, knowing your target audience. Who are you trying to reach? How much money does that person have? How old is that person? Who's actually making the purchasing decisions in that person's house? If that, say I'm selling scratch cards and my typical client is a young person, that young person is going to influence the parents in the household to get them some, you know what I mean? So you got to think about, what does this person's daily life look like? Are they mobile? Do they have a car? Can they get to the store where my product is? If they can't, how can I get my product to them? You need to really do your research, talk to people. And talking to people is free. Go out and talk to your friends, talk to the people in your community, talk to the people that you work with, and just ask them questions, which will help to guide you in your business and your marketing goals. Then, like I said before, once you identify who you're trying to serve and how you're going to serve them, be consistent. Put out a good product and be consistent. Competition is good, but competition is also something that should drive you to add value to whatever it is that you offer. You want to find something that makes you special. Why should someone buy from you and not from the other person? Maybe whatever it is that you have is fresher or tastes better or is made with better quality ingredients or materials. But you want to make sure that you sell those points and then add value wherever you can. So those are, I would say that those, and also one last thing I would say is that success in marketing isn't something that you can measure dollar for dollar. If you spend $1 to do marketing or to invest in your branding, you may not see that $1 come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you have to find other ways that you can measure your performance, key performance indicators. It may be, okay, we put an ad out and maybe we didn't sell anything today, but maybe 400 people engaged with us on Facebook. And maybe now those people are commenting a lot and those people are asking questions, and one of them just messaged us today and now that person wants to know where our store is located. So it's not something that you'll usually be able to see the return on right away. Don't let that discourage you. Keep marketing, because if you don't, people won't know that you exist and they won't know what you have to offer. You'll go out of business.
Consistency is so important. But a small group of business people had a conversation, I think it was last week, and we were talking about like just comparing some of the bigger brands. So when you look at, like you said, Coca-Cola, you look at Nike's, and I told someone, I said, I've been drinking Coca-Cola from the time I was small, but the company continues to invest money in doing commercials for Coca-Cola. And in my head, if I drink anything else, it might even taste better, but in my head, Coca-Cola tastes better. When you think about the commercial that you open the can and go, and you can almost taste it by watching commercials. So sometimes it's always a challenge here, trying to get people that, it has to be repetitive. It has to be consistent. Now, when I look at the micro and small businesses here who are at least trying to build their brand. Now, I know there may be about 3 companies in Liberia that stands out. I'm not going to call the name before, they say I'm biased. But what would be your 3 company, a micro or small business in Liberia that stands out as having a good brand and that's consistent?
Okay.
I put you on the spot.
So I'm gonna be a little biased because I'm gonna talk about the brands who I know the owners of personally. who I have worked with and traveled with and everything. And, you know, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to talk about them because I see the work that they're putting in. I've seen how their branding and their packaging and everything, the quality of what they're putting out has improved since I came to this country. And because I can actually find their products in the stores. And I'm constantly seeing them online. So I'm going to say that one of them, of course, is Fabrar.
I'm going to say for bra too.
Fabrar sells rice. They process, package, and create value for rice. So that's one of them. I worked with them on their branding, but they were already pretty well known before we changed the packaging up. You know, we did some rebranding, but they had done pretty well before that. Another one who I'm really proud of every time I see on social media or whatever is Naz Naturals. Maybe it's her story, maybe it's the brand. I've also seen how hard she works, but they are just constantly posting and everything is just consistent. I don't know if she's doing it herself. I don't know how they're doing their thing, but it's just consistent across the board. I find it everywhere, you know, at every store I go to. Sometimes in places I wouldn't expect to see it. I see them at every trade show or, you know, festival and things like that. There's so many, actually. I don't want to leave anybody out. Let's see. Of course, Club Beer, but they're not as small. We only want small ones.
Yes.
I mean,
well, they're considered in Liberia. I think they're more of the large company, but we would name them because I love the way they've been consistent, and also even with the new products, they kind of reinvent the wheel. So yeah, Club Beer, we'll throw them in there, even though
we'll throw them in. They're like they're on a different list. Let me see. Who's my third? I wasn't prepared for this question. I feel so bad. I'm just saying the ones that are popping into my mind first.
Yeah.
And then what is the name of Ruki's company?
The Liberian Business Incubator.
Yes, I've seen significant growth in her branding. There's so many that I've just been watching over the last couple of years, and I'm seeing so much growth, consistency, the design work, the labeling, the packaging. Pape, the moringa tea that comes in a little craft bag. I see that every time I go to the store. They don't tend to ever run out. It's nice packaging. There's so many of them. There's this other brand that I just discovered, and once I discovered them, I started seeing it everywhere, and that is Green Elixir's skincare products.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know the person behind the brand, but it's just been popping up everywhere, and now they're all over the internet. You know how the internet spies on us. So
I did have on there. I love it. I love the packaging, of course. I love the story behind it, and of course, I guess it doesn't hurt that, you know, it's a female owner. So, you know, I love the fact that they're very consistent in letting us know they're still out there. And I'm starting to really love Dwe, the soap making Henry Farms. Oh my God. And I think for me, it's amazing to see her. She's been in business for about a year, and just to see how she's really growing her brand, and she's focused on her brand. Then, of course, there's someone else where it's more individual. I think it's you also, and Bakututma. You know, I like the individual brand. You know, I see I'm like, okay, I know what they do. You know, I love to watch what they do. If they're doing something, you want to watch what they're doing. And I think sometimes most companies here, they forget that sometimes they are the brand. They forget, you know, and I guess
my place where we all know each other.
Yeah, and you are the face of that product or that business. What would you say to a small company? I look at it as a silver lining. This is an opportunity to spend less money and really brand your company by using you. Now, how would you, I don't know, not convince, but have a company understand that the individual branding versus the business branding? Is it the same thing, or can it be different? Can it be integrated?
It can be integrated. They're two different brands, but sometimes they are related. Sometimes they're interdependent, actually. Someone may buy more of a product because they trust the person behind it. Sometimes your personal brand can work against you, because I've had people tell me, they were projects that I wanted to start. Someone once told me, maybe you shouldn't let everyone know that you're behind it, because people are going to hate on you and they're not going to want to buy it. And that is absolutely a real thing that happens. I didn't actually start that particular project, but that is something, I've heard people say, oh, that's so-and-so's brand. So, it's probably, I don't want to support them, or it's probably not a good thing. And in this small community in which we live here, that personal connection can sometimes be a bad thing for the brand. But that's why it's always important for you and all of your employees to make sure that you're constantly, making sure that you're adhering to the values, the core values and the mission statement behind the brand. You need to be checking all your employees' social media and telling them that they should not be posting things that would be a poor reflection on the company. That is not fair, but it's the world we live in today. The things that you post should also be things that support a positive image of you and why people should trust your business and anything that comes from you. So, I think they're definitely, you have Apple and you have Steve Jobs. That's a brand and that's a person. And, we put the two of them together. We like Apple more or less, whatever your opinion is, because of what you think of Steve Jobs. So.
Okay, Vannette, thank you again so much for joining. But before we wrap up, what would be your one advice that you would give to a small business who's scratching their head and saying, you know what, I can't afford it, I'm not ready? What would be your key advice, your one advice that you would give to them?
Start where you can. Start where you are. Start where you are. Do what you can. Every little bit helps. Every business is going to consistently be working on improving their branding, and marketing is something that you're always going to have to do. So just start where you are. Take your time. But if you're starting with a limited budget, limited resources, if it's just a one-man or woman show, one thing I would say is really spend some time getting to know your customer. And that is going to save you money when it comes to advertising. It's going to save you money when it comes to getting your products into the stores, or or things like that. Because if you know your customer, you can figure out more quickly how to reach them and how to appeal to them and how to get them on your side. So that would be my biggest piece of advice.
And it's probably very cost effective, and probably maybe one of the easiest things to do for micro and small businesses. So, Vannette, thank you so much for having this chat with us. I know, the information that you provided. Many companies will pay plenty of money. Let me say it in a Liberian way. Companies will pay money for this advice. So if you're watching, I suggest you pull out your pen, write it out. We will have Vannette's information posted on the website at tmtafrica/SalaMartu, so you can get in touch with her. Just how we're supporting MSMEs, support her business, and don't be asking for plenty of free advice, because she's given a lot of free advice right now. Okay, so we'll have the information on the website. So once again, thank you so much for joining and providing some very valuable information. We will do more of this and see how we can maybe do it live once the world open, when this fake year is done and over with. this scam of a year, 2020. But again, any last words for our businesses?
Just be yourself. Be yourself. Do what you love. And if you're really passionate about it and you really want to succeed, you will figure it out. But you have the Chamber of Commerce, you have SalaMartu, you have people like me who are here to help, and ask people who have done it before. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. If you see that someone, don't copy off of people. That's one thing people like to do here. Don't copy. But if you see that it's working for someone, they change their packaging and now they're making sales, maybe I should change my packaging too. So just get advice from where you can, and use the resources that are available to you. Keep on trying, and it's not going to be easy all the time, especially in this market. It's up and down. Like I said, you're not going to always see dollar for dollar return on your investment in your marketing, but if you keep at it, it will pay off.
All right. So thank you. Final advice. Thank you so much once again. And I will definitely put the information out on the website and to all of our micro and small businesses. We're still planning the Made in Liberia Fair where you can come out and showcase your products. But right now the world isn't completely open. So we're actually looking to do something virtual within the next week or two. So perhaps I will give you a call and see you can participate in that as well. So again, go to the website, www.tmtafrica/SalaMartu. We'll have all the information on there. Vannette is one of my fearless ladies. I always say, the circle of people that I've come in contact with, they're just so amazing and so dope. So I'm going to just feed off of them, grab some of the resources they can provide, and then we'll throw it out there. However, when you call the woman, this is a service that she offers. So get in touch. Thank you once again, everybody, for joining us for SalaMartu and Friends. I'm looking forward to next week where we're going to be talking more about leadership, women in leadership. So I hope you can join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on TMT Africa. Thank you. And be safe out there, Vannette.
I will. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.